we create our realities. We really do. Like, we get to decide what our lives look like. It might not be today, but every day we can make little incremental shifts towards what we want our future to look like. And not every day is easy to do that and keep that mindset, but you just keep chipping away at it. And you get coaches like Elysia that help you keep chipping away at it.
You hire people like Kayla to help you from making terrible mistakes. I'm Elysia Skye, and this is the Brilliance Method Podcast. Through mindful, motivational, and often hilarious conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives, you'll discover new ways to create your life on purpose. Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Brilliance Method. Today, we are hanging out with someone who is so near and dear to my heart. I love her so much, and you're going to fall in love with her too. Her name is Kayla Bartel, and she is an HR boss. She is a boy mom. God bless her. She is an avid lover of the San Francisco Giants, although I saw her boyfriend today wearing a Lakers shirt. Oh, wait, are those two different sports?
Okay, it's a different sport.
That's how much I know about sports. She loves rainbows and British accents and manatees. How was my accent just now? It wasn't great, right?
Okay. It was a good effort.
It's not good. She also loves manatees and nature in general. I've seen so many gorgeous photos of trips that you've gone on with your son. And today we're going to talk a lot about your career. And she has an HR career spanning half of her life. Her zone of genius is collaboratively solving challenges with her clients to create positive workplace culture. So important that we're having this conversation today. So Kayla was born and raised in Iowa, but she considers herself a California girl. She lives in SoCal with her partner, his daughter, her son, and their golden doodle Champ. We love Champ.
Mm-hmm. Everybody loves Champ.
Everybody loves Champ. Oh my goodness, honey. Welcome to the party. It really does just feel like I'm hanging out with one of my friends. So I'm so happy that you were able to create time to be here with us and share your brilliance.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here on the Brilliance Method. I feel like it's just family time, honestly. So
it does. It is that. It does feel like that. So today, my love, I want to chat with you about what it means to set the bar high in employment, because a lot of people are very status quo, just trying to hit deadlines, get through shit. I've had a lot of corporate clients in the retail space, and that is very much we just got to hit deadlines, go, go, go. And they've been big advocates for mindfulness. And I know you have had some and have some very, very big deal clients. So whatever you are able to share with us today, please do. I want to talk about psychological safety. I know how near and dear this is to your heart, and leadership mindset shifts prior to implementing change. Because if we just go in with all of the awesome stuff that you offer and, attack with change management, it won't stick, right?
Correct.
All right. So why don't we start with that?
Yeah. So a lot of times when I get approached by new clients about implementing change, they just want to tackle what they need to tackle, right? They've got a checklist of things. Likely it stemmed from some terrifying update that they received from an attorney that was like, wow, we've got these 17 new things hitting us that we need to do. And an attorney's, by the way, I love attorneys. We work really well together, but they scare the bejesus out of you, right? Because they tell you all the things you're going to get sued for if you don't change them immediately. And so...
Wait, that is so scary. Because you're just a business owner trying to, number one, trying to share your gifts, whatever they are. Then you're trying to run a business, which is often two very different skills. And then now you have to comply with every update ever. And I've gotten these random emails from lawyers that don't know me and we don't have clients in common. And they're like, hey, I saw your website was missing this. Like, you're going to get fined all this money. I'm like, what? We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I work very closely with attorneys, and they know my goal is to keep my clients from needing to use them, right? Like, how could I help my clients not need to spend $650 an hour on you?
Wow.
But it's a great symbiotic relationship, because there are times when my clients do need to use them. But yeah, so a lot of times they've heard, there's these new laws and how do we comply? And so they just want to get to that checklist, which 100% understand. And we can obviously help them with that. And we will help them with that. But we do a little more where we know that there's that component. Great. We have the teams that can do that. But to really make the long-lasting impact, to be successful and grow, we like to work with the leaders to understand the mindset shift to make those things last. You talked a little bit earlier about my belief in a system when it comes to work, which is really that a lot of the organizations that don't see lawsuits, don't see problems, are the ones that do the right thing, right?
What does that mean?
They treat their employees really well, whether it's the law or not. They're just treating people well. And so they don't end up having complaints being made, because their guiding principles aren't about, is this the law? It's just a moral, ethical thing to do, not, is it what I have to do because the state of California or the state of Tennessee or the state of wherever says it's what I need to do. And so the employees, therefore, are not looking for a reason to sue them. So those business owners often don't even know if they're meeting compliance standards. They just aren't seeing lawsuits because they're not having disgruntled employees.
There's really been I want to almost call it an epidemic in the entertainment industry for so many years around this stuff. And, there's unions in place and there's labor laws and there's all that, but there's loopholes. And I've spent time working as a full-time employee or contractor for many different production companies. And, from the inside out, I could see that gap in, it's almost like the word I want to use is comfort, like where you go to your job and you're just scared that today's the last day, or someone's going to get mad at someone and everyone has to keep secrets and follow these weird clock in, clock out procedures that are better for the company than they are for you. And, some people don't get it. And I also have compassion for the managers and the directors and the C-suite execs, because most people, just like in family life or in relationships, we just keep doing what we've been taught. And right, there's not somebody that comes in and says, hey, welcome to your new job. I know you've been doing this for 20 years. Oh, my little emoji just popped up. I don't know why, right? I know you've been doing this for 20 years. Let me tell you how to do it better, right? Without, the swords coming out and whatnot. So can you give us some examples of what a happy employee environment looks or feels like, and certain things that could happen or could be added for it to be a happier, better environment versus things that are not, like the obvious ones like sexual harassment, but like what's on the other side of that?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of just something that happened this morning. So I was, I have this client and we had a lot of new leaders, right? So I'm sure you've seen it, where you have people who do a really good job and then a company promotes them and they don't know what they're doing as leaders, right? And so it's like, how do the companies make the mistake of not helping them know how to make that leap from being a peer to being a leader? So I do a training to help them understand what that change looks like. And I was doing the training this morning with a group, and the question came up when I was covering classifications of exempt versus non-exempt, what that means. Non-exempt needs breaks. We have to do it before the end of the 5th hour in California, all these rules, right? And this company in particular has a lot of exempt employees, so they don't have those same requirements. The manager said, well, what about these employees who are exempt? If they want to work 8 to 4 without a break, is that okay? I said, legally, yeah. I was like, so is that what is best for the employee? Is it best for them to not take a break all day and get to leave at 4 and miss traffic in Southern California? If you as their leader talk to them and that's what they think is best, great, cool. I'm fine with that. Like, if you think it's best for them to get up and stretch their legs and take a break in the middle of the day for their mental health, great. Like, I trust you. I empower you to make that decision. I'm fine with it. Like, so that's really the way I approach it, is like, I'm not that person. I'm not that leader. They're going to work with that employee and kind of make that decision. On the non-exempt side, it's tougher because I have to say, well, they have to get a break before the end of the 5th hour because that's what California says, and we have to protect the company and all those things. So,
it's interesting. It does.
Yeah.
And, I know you as such an advocate for mindfulness and for physical health and all those things. And you've been an advocate for your son in his school for what's best for him, and it must be challenging to say, okay, well, you are allowed to do this or not, when I know you, Kayla, and I know you would say, and even if you had exempt employees, you would say, hey, get up, stretch, breathe, go outside. Yeah. Like, and so I think that's the difference between, okay, we can run an efficient system, right? Here we are like soldiers in an army versus let's create a culture where people are thriving and not burning out.
Yep. Yeah. And that really is what it's all about. And with this client, they do a hybrid workforce. So they have Mondays and Fridays from home. They're in the office 3 days. They really do focus on that and create that, right? Like, they want both the camaraderie of having the team in the office to be able to have the employee engagement experience. And they've got a fully stocked kitchen, and they do Grubhub, like, gift cards and all of those things to make it very personalized. They take breaks and do like trivia in the middle of the day with the team.
That's awesome.
Like all those things. So there is a lot about employee experience with that particular client, and it is way more focused than just checking a compliance box. And that's why when she asked that question, I answered the way I did. It's like, have that conversation with those employees and what is good for that one person. One of their exempt employees lives in Orange County. For that particular individual, leaving at 4 and being able to beat traffic to get back to Orange County from San Diego may be what is best for that individual. Someone else, it may be that it's better for them to walk across to their fitness center and get a 30-minute workout in at noon and stay till 5 because they just live down the street, right? So I think it really is about that individual human and being able to connect with their employees and having that conversation. So yeah,
that's awesome.
And that's how we like to work with our clients, very much so, versus just like, yeah, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? That the state says you need to do. So,
correct. And I know that you do offer that, but my impression is you really do attract clients who want to have better culture, who want happier employees, not just productive employees. And those are the types of clients who are drawn to you and who thrive because it's just happier people. That's why, when I'm brought in to do mindfulness workshops, whether it's for HR or for just the management or upper management, it's because they want everybody to feel less stressed. And when we feel less stressed, then everything's better. We're producing less cortisol. We're happier. It's a domino effect. It's a trickle down effect. We bring that happiness home. We're kinder to each other. And then the side effect, we make more money.
Yes.
Right? We're getting along. There's less turnover. There's this and that. So you really are shifting that in the company culture. And so is that where the name Humanity HR came from, or how did you come up with your name?
Yeah. So I have been in HR half my life. So I actually turned 41 tomorrow. And I have been in HR since I was 20.
Wow.
And and did the corporate thing. And then in 2015, started my own business. Didn't come up with the name until closer to about 3 or 4 years in. And I'd been in a lot of organizations internally as HR where, you hear all the time, like, the employees are our greatest asset. And then there is not what you see as an employee at all. And I was tired of hearing that. And so when I came up with the name, it was like, I wanted to attract clients who truly believed that and wanted to live that. And they were about having a culture where the employees came first, and they believed that in order to have happy customers, you had to have happy employees. The employees are who are directly talking with, providing that service, and they cannot be successful in doing that if they are not happy and fulfilled. We spend so much time at work, and so there's no way to be able to have happy customers if you don't have happy employees. So that's where it came from.
Wow. Yeah. And so going back to like those leadership mindset shifts that need to happen to implement change, you know, it all starts from within. So what kind of training do you offer leadership when it comes to mindset or compassion?
Yeah, so that's been a little bit later in my experiences as I've gotten into do things like reorganization, structure changes, even like things like HRIS implementation, where they're looking at bringing in new technology and they weren't ready. I've recognized as I've, worked with them, they think that they're ready for those changes. And then I noticed that they are actually really adverse to change. And so we have to kind of take a pause and find out why. Like, what is it that's holding the leadership back? And it's more than about stopping and seeing where their roadblocks are mentally for change. So that's been a little bit of a pause where I've actually not done a lot of that myself. It's where I've looked to find partners like you, other like mindset coaches to say like, there's leaders that need that in their life. I do it more on the fly with them to say like, have you stopped to think about like, is this the right time for you to make such a big organizational shift? Because I noticed that you're having a hard time making decisions. And it impacts HR. So there's been an example lately where someone couldn't make a decision about benefits because they just were paralyzed. And because I've had so much work with you myself, I've been able to recognize it in them to say like, you're not ready to make this jump. You need to pause, get some individual coaching yourself from a mindset leader to be ready to really move your business to the next level. So that's really more where it's been. It's not so much formalized in my business because my expertise is more in the HR implementation. It's more just kind of recognizing that's a need for my clients and then referring them out to others.
Yeah, but that's so valuable because if you go in and you see there's a hole, and that's a pretty big hole in the boat, for this, for everything that you're creating for them to work, then, and I love the way that you just like, hey, what, like, have you thought about this? Right. It's like little vitamin Kayla, like throughout the day, they don't even know it, and then in a few weeks or months, they're just better humans. And that's just who you are. You show up and you make the place better, and people are better because of you. They're better because they see, you're welcome, like who you are and how you live your life and how you advocate and your kindness, Kayla, like you're just kindness through and through. And that's what we need, the foundation of our businesses.
One of the things I think, I don't know if it makes me unique, but I think it does, is I don't ever pretend to know something I don't know. Like with like attorneys, right? Like if someone comes to me and they're like, well, the labor board just showed up, I'm like, yeah, it's beyond me. You're going to need to talk to this person. Or if they're like, I'm really struggling with like mindset, I'm going to be like, yeah, so Elysia, she's amazing. Like, I'm mean, like, you need HR. Yeah. Like, let's talk. Like, but I've seen a lot of CEOs that like try to do it all, and it's not for me. Like, I know where I specialize. I know how to help people, but I also know like where my limitations are. And I try really hard not to get like that shiny like syndrome where I'm like, let's do that. And I think my team really values that too. Cause I think like they don't want to have to be pulled in 8 million other directions. Like they want to focus on what they know and keep working towards bettering the workplaces for the clients that we have. So that's really where we focus. So.
Totally. And that is an asset. And it's such a huge leadership skill to know, hey, there's someone else who's a sharper knife at this than I am. So where you're a sharp knife and where I'm a sharp knife, and maybe we've got a couple sharp knives in our drawer, then we can help people really, really excel. But it's such a waste of time, money, energy, resource, and so much stress to try and be everything for everyone and solve everyone's problems all the time. And I know that you and I both went through a lot of that as we were coming up. And, that's where Be the Lighthouse, Not the Lifesaver comes in, is we're not here to fix everyone and save everyone. We here's the roadmap and lead by example. And I mean, you've been doing it since I've known you and probably before, but can you just share a little bit about when you shift into that strength in knowing here's where I'm awesome and here's where you should call somebody else? What piece does that bring you on a personal level?
I think that it just helps me to know I don't have to do it all. For a long time, yes, that was how I was. It was like, let me fix it all. Let me fix your problems. And I think it was you who taught me that, where it was just kind of like, who can I give this to? Like, I don't have to do it all. I have to know somebody who can do this instead of me, who will do it better than me. And it is a relief. It's like an inside relief when you're like, oh, wow, there's somebody else who will do this better and take this on. And my client will be so much happier with that result, right? Yeah. And then they're going to thank me for that. So that part continues to grow. I actually just was invited to join this global advisory network. And lo and behold, I didn't know they were actually looking for me. They were looking for an HR consultant because they didn't have one. And so now I was that missing piece they were looking for. And so it's just kind of this symbiotic, oh, I can give and receive. And as you know, I love to be able to give.
So generous.
And so it's just such a great feeling to be able to be on both. The reciprocation part, right, is so rewarding for me. So yeah, it's a relief. It really is. I put a lot of pressure on myself to deliver, as you know. So when I'm able to say strategically, this thing needs to happen for my client, I know I'm not going to do it as well as someone else would, but I have a solution still. It's very rewarding.
And in leading that way, you now have an amazing network of collaborators and people you can refer to, and you do become this go-to person, and you shine so bright in how you help really reduce chaos that could occur. You're a chaos reducer, and people need that. On that note, I know you have worked with clients that have tens of thousands of employees down to, a few dozen. So when is the right time to bring in Humanity HR into your business? Because, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a handful of contractors, but I've hired you to consult with me one-on-one. I've hired you to teach classes to my group. I haven't felt I'm ready for all the big moves, but maybe I am, right? So as other entrepreneurs are listening in small businesses, pay attention. All right. So what's the deal?
Oh, I get that question all the time. This is, I didn't realize this is apparently something that makes us unique, because a lot of other HR consulting firms are very much no, we only serve this group. No, we only serve this group. We're not that way. We just finished a project for one of the largest organizations in the world. In case you do have employees in California, workplace violence prevention plans are a new thing that you have to do, FYI.
Workplace violence prevention.
Yes, FYI, as of July 1st. We're writing them mad over here. So it doesn't matter. Everybody has to have them. So we're doing them on a project basis. Everybody needs them. So we're doing those for really large organizations that have locations in California. But our bread and butter are smaller organizations. And so, a lot of companies don't need full-time HR, but they need a resource who is, knowledgeable of HR. And so really, I say anytime you are going to hire your first employee, it's at least worth talking to us to get a sense of what that means. Is it smarter to go with an independent contractor for your first hire? Can you go with an independent contractor for your first hire? If you're in California, you actually might not be able to legally. So just understanding your risk. The thing, again, that makes us a little unique compared to some HR and companies is we're very much consultative in the sense that I'm always going to tell you your risk, but then say, but it's your business. do what you like to do, right? Like,
right.
I just want you to know like where the risk is and what that level of risk is. And that's what we do. We just give you the data to say, if you hire an independent contractor in Canada, here may be the risk versus if you do it in Turkey, if you do it in Colombia, right? So I'm just going to kind of give you that data to give people a sense of what that might look like. So
it's such a relief. It is because so many times I've been trying to figure shit out, right? And I'll Google something. I'll be like, am I allowed to do this? Is this okay? I don't know, right? So to have you kind of on speed dial, or your team, because you have a wonderful team, it is a relief. And that goes into, you have memberships in addition to your being, working with you full time. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's again the thing that's unique apparently is we're very flexible in how people can work with us, like budget wise. So people can either just pay an hourly amount if they want to. It's obviously more expensive, but then if they want to buy prepaid hours, they can do that to get a little bit of a discount, and the hours are good for a year, roll over month to month. Or we have memberships. If you want to be a member, there's obviously great perks, benefits on training, discounts, and our community give back program, which I love. And that's a testament to you and being obviously generous to the world and being change agents in our world. So, but yeah, the membership is how a lot of my clients end up growing into it. Once we start doing work with them, they love us. And I think at this point, 95% of our clients are on our membership. And some need to grow into it though, because at first you might not need that much commitment, but they're different packages based on your level of need.
What a cool opportunity. And, even though you're based in California, you have clients that are not exclusively in California. I'm in Tennessee. There are people, all over the world. So that's another thing too. My bookkeeper is in California. And then another person, I think my accountant is in Reno. I'm like, you guys know like the Tennessee laws, right? And they're like, yes, we know the Tennessee laws. I'm like, okay. So people think you have to hire locally for someone like what you do, but you don't have to. You just have to find an expert, find the sushi knife in their field and trust you. Like you said, if you don't know, you'll look it up, or you'll say, I don't know. And then you'll figure it out together.
Yeah. We have so many global clients that, they started hiring here, right? They expanded into the US. And so we have clients everywhere.
Okay, so going off the idea that now there is a violence in the workplace mandatory training in certain states, I know that psychological safety is something that is so important to you, and it sounds like a broad term that we can use our context clues and figure it out, but what does that mean, and what does that look like in the workplace?
Yeah, so psychological safety essentially means that employees feel safe being able to, number one, share their concerns at work, but also challenges. So failures, that they can come to a manager and say, I messed up. They can say, I failed at this. I've got concerns with this employee or how you're leading, and not be afraid of the repercussions. That is creating an environment of psychological safety. So I often use an example in my own company where my senior HR consultant, who is one of my most trusted, wonderful humans, she is the yin to my yang, came to me with one of our largest clients and said, oh my God, I made the biggest mistake. I sent a change notice for a raise to the wrong employee and mortified. But I always say, like, if I had found that out from the client versus her, that would have been an entirely different conversation, right? But
like if she knew and hid it from you, because she might not have realized it, but if she knew and hid it from you, she was. That means she wasn't feeling safe.
But she knew she could come to me and own it and be safe, and like it wasn't going to end in her termination. It was going to end in us figuring it out together. And how do we go then own it with the client and tell them what happened and why, and how do we put things in place to make sure it doesn't happen again, and figure out together. Like, that's creating an environment of psychological safety, not where someone feels like they have to hide it. That is obviously an unsafe environment. So it's important to me because we are human.
Yeah.
Humanity HR, right? Like we are human and we all make mistakes. And I believe that like if we can train and teach people to feel comfortable failing, they are only going to grow from that. Think of it, like in the medical field, if a doctor were to make a crucial mistake, they are not going to make that mistake ever again in their entire career, right? Like,
Probably not.
Most humans beat themselves up more than anybody else could ever beat them up. Most, not all, but most, right?
Most.
So that's kind of the idea. Like if we can teach that kind of self accountability, you're going to be actually a more successful organization. So yeah, it's just incredibly important. And I think that it leads actually to more productivity, more accountability, more success, more profits, more revenue, all those things to make a more successful organization. So,
wow. I mean, that stuff can run really deep.
Yeah.
Right, Kayla? Because there's so much that would go into that. I can imagine, like, one, teaching communication skills to leadership when someone comes to you that they've messed up, and how do you handle it while still helping that person understand they made a mistake, and then comforting them, but not teaching them that it's like fine to make mistakes all the time.
Right.
But then, so communication, but then also there's trauma here. You know, most people don't want to admit they messed up because they're scared. Even if it's unrealistic that they're going to get fired over something, they react as if they do. We're such a reactive society, especially in the US. We have a culture of everything it's over. It's like it's great or it's horrible, right? We don't allow ourselves to kind of sift and journey in the middle of it. So that's got to be really interesting for you.
Yeah, it is a lot about communication tools. It's a lot about coaching, guiding. How do you work through that? How do you, in the moment, like take a breath, take a pause, don't overreact, like as a leader, as a coach, when you're guiding somebody. And there's a lot of, it's very broad because there's generational components that are involved with that, right? Like our generations in the workforce, there's like 5 different generations. So the way that one generation reacts to a mistake is very different than another. So there's all types of components in my training that come into play around psychological safety. So.
And even like relevant current day trauma, you know, someone could be in an abusive relationship at home and then, you know, bring that energy to work, just being afraid all the time, or vice versa, right? They could be an aggressive person that, you know, doesn't take responsibility for what is going on with them. So
exactly.
Wow. There's so much to navigate. And as a business owner, when we're like, ooh, I'm going to start a coaching practice and I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to write some books. Like, I didn't think about all these things. I visualize having teams of hundreds of people or more and you know, building this beautiful little empire all over the world and impacting so many people. But there will be a time and a place to be like, wow, Elysia, and the time is now, right? Like it's this conversation. These are all the things you have to think about when you bring them to the table, and the psychology, even of hiring. That's been a learning curve. And I know you do a lot of, you know, you help with recruitment and whatnot. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about recruitment?
We can. Yeah. That's funny. We were just talking about it this morning in the process of recruitment, and we could talk for hours. I mean, the course that I was doing this morning was about protected classes and when you're interviewing, things to ask, things not to ask, and the resources and the tools. And you know, we could go in for hours about operational things when it comes to your onboarding processes and operational efficiency. Like,
oh my gosh, there's so much. Just join her membership.
Right? All those things. We set you up to make like your people operations easy and efficient. And, you know, so you don't have to think about that stuff, right? Like, it's like you have a business to run that you're focused on your passions, right? So we're focused on the people part and aligning that. You know, we want to know what your vision is, right? What your strategies are, so we can say, okay, well, now you need people to make that happen. So we're going to help you focus on the people part to make it easy. So
yeah. And sometimes, like you said, we don't know what we don't know. I remember I called you once because I was looking for an assistant and I posted on LinkedIn and I was like, here's all my requirements. And I want you to take your disc. I want you to take your Myers-Briggs. And I want you to, when you fill out this application, send me your results. Cause I was like, okay, I really want somebody who's like this and disc and this. They're going to be the best fit for this. And my post got rejected by LinkedIn. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I had no idea what it was all about. And I sent it to you and you're like, you can't discriminate based on personality tests. I was like, I wasn't discriminating. I was like honoring based on, so it's what we could flip it however, any way we want, but that was helpful to see. Cause I was looking at it like, was there something in the middle of the post? It didn't even really occur to me that it was, it's cause maybe I had the disc ask in there. And so that was an interesting conversation of like, how do I navigate that if I really do want to find somebody who has those attributes? And it comes down to, the interview process and really selecting the right candidate and asking the right questions. And oh, girl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot to it for sure. Yeah, I love it. Wouldn't do anything else, but there's a lot of components to it, and some of it's more fun than others. That's for sure.
You do love this so much, and it's one of the things that you love talking about. And you are so committed to your own self-improvement and the quality of life for your family and your friends. So it makes sense to me that you got into this industry. But I wonder, like, what did little Kayla want to be when she grew up, and how did you get here?
So when I was growing up, I actually wanted to be Katie Couric, like specifically, like not just a journalist. I wanted to be Katie Couric. I thought her job was so cool. I was like, I want to be on the Today Show. I was obsessed with New York, so like, just wanted to be her.
I love it. And for the younger generations listening, right? So Katie Couric, like she was a host of a morning show and whatnot. I mean, anything else about that? And she is fabulous. But yes,
she is fabulous. But yeah, so my path, of course, like many, was not like straight to HR. So when I first went to college, so I grew up in the Midwest in Iowa. I think you mentioned that at the beginning, but I started my education wanting to be a teacher. I love kids. And so I thought I wanted to teach elementary, and then got all the way to my practicum with a group of 24 first graders. It was like, yeah, no, I like 2 children at a time, not 20. I'm out. So then I switched my major to psychology and did that for a while, and was like, yeah, I want to like help people with, addiction. And then I was like, nope, there's no money in this. And I like money. So then I was like, how can I still help people but make money? And so I went and talked to a guidance counselor or a career counselor at my college, and they're like, HR people make some pretty good money. I was like, oh, that sounds good. So now I realize I basically counsel employees, and that's what it really is a lot of times, is counseling employees. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the fit. So that's how I got to HR.
That's so fun. So your guidance counselor encouraged it, and then you, in essence, became like the adult version of a guidance counselor.
Exactly. Yep. And that's really, especially early on in my career as like an HR generalist in-house, that really is what it is. Like it was like a revolving door of employees just lining up, coming in, problem after problem after problem. And then I realized that was not the type of culture for HR I wanted to create. As I got in and realized that was the wrong type of culture. You don't want that to be your HR department. I was like, I don't want that to be the type of HR I am. And I was working for a company in Sacramento after I'd moved to California. And one of the very first weeks on the job, dear friend, still great friends with this person, he says to me, "You're not like any HR person I've ever met." And I was like, oh, thank you. Like, I will take that as a compliment. And
that is a compliment.
Yeah. And so anyway, I think that's kind of how I started to look at like, how am I different? How do I change? And I, in that job, was able to do a lot of like creating offsites where I got to do a lot of training, got to do a lot of personality assessment things, and kind of break down silos with different departments, and like do mentor, like servant leadership trainings, and got my passion for doing more than just being the guidance counselor
Mm-hmm.
and digging deeper than just like compliance checkbox kind of stuff. And so, yeah, that's where my passion came from for truly getting to influence a positive workplace culture. So,
How cool. Makes so much sense. And, you know, one other thing that's unique about you is in the field of HR, you've chosen to start your own company, where most people I've met, because I've done a lot with learning and development teams and HR hires me a lot for mindfulness work.
yeah.
I haven't, you're one of two people I've met, probably out of 100, who started their own company. And you're the first one that I met. So how does that happen? And how can we inspire other people who are, you know, essentially, you know, cogs in the wheel, not wanting the revolving door of issues in their workplace to create their own thing or join yours, or not necessarily even HR, just anybody who wants to start their own business? Like, what gives you the right, Kayla Bartel?
I think it's honestly just like you have to have the drive. You have to understand that it's a lot of work. Like I think I maybe was telling you like recently that it's just been honestly in the last 6 months where I don't feel like it's 50, 60 hours a week.
Hmm.
It's a grind. It's a lot. And you have to be committed to knowing like it's going to be a lot of late nights. You have to have the passion and the drive to do it, but it's worth it. It's worth it to know you're going to be making an impact. You're going to be changing lives. You're going to be owning your own time, and for me that's where the why and the motivation came from. I started it when my son was starting kindergarten, and he needed it from me, first of all, for his education needs, but also there was just this knowing that I could do more. The career I was in, I had to be in office from 8 to 5, finding myself done by 2 and literally just taking walks around the block because I couldn't go home. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't want to be controlled by an office. So
God, isn't
I just
that
had to
so
take the leap.
weird? Yeah.
Yeah. Just like with everything, and there's still those things every day. I mean, Megs, if you're listening, like my book, I have to
Mhm.
just take the leap, right? Like I'm writing a book and you just have to do it. Yeah. You have to make the time and prioritize what is important to you. And that ebbs and flows with different seasons. So
Yeah. Then for our audience listening or watching, Megs Thompson is our publisher. She publishes most of my friends and clients' books in Omnia Paratus Publishing. So look her up. Megs writes. So yes, I have two books that are also sitting there. So yeah, it is about priority and to kind of recap what you just said, freedom, right? Owning your time and
yes.
walking around the parking lot. That's crazy. I worked for, it was essentially a Google company. I was part of something called the Google Initiative. And I was working for an influencer who had millions of followers. And for those of you who don't know, the Google Initiative was this thing that happened in 2012, 2011 and 2012, 2013, where Google was putting like hundreds of millions of dollars into growing YouTube and making it more intentional with the content. And it was a really, really cool project to be a part of. And so we were given big chunk of change and 7 figures to create a certain amount of hours of content. And the office was in Santa Monica and I lived in the Valley. So for those of you who either are familiar with that because you live in California or you've watched enough Saturday Night Live to know about it, that's a grind. I was spending 90 minutes each way, even though it was 17 miles from my house, 14 miles at one point because I moved. It still took 90 minutes. And it kind of the opposite of what you were saying earlier. We were not allowed to leave because there was like so much that was just happening and they wanted us there to brainstorm. And if the editor wanted us to look at something, we would just walk in the other room and stand over their shoulder and look at an edit, for some content, versus now you can just upload it to like Frame.io and watch it digitally. But that was not the case. And man, my colleague Leslie and I, and she's become one of my best friends, we would stay in the office. We'd be done at like 7, right? But I'm not going to get in the car on the 405 at 7 o'clock and go north to the Valley. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a depression sentence. So we would
Yeah.
stay at the office till like 8:30 and just hang out with each other. We would order dinner, like, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
she's married, I was married. I'm like, this is a crazy way to live our lives. And people, just like you said, they don't know that it's ever supposed to be any different. And when you kind of grow up in entertainment and in production, you just think like 12-hour days are normal.
Right.
But that doesn't need to be the case when you're not on set. And right. And so like, what wish or guidance can you give to anyone in any industry who is just thinking, well, this is just the way it is?
I mean, I think that comes to a lot of what you do, which is just the mindset of like understanding that we create our realities. We really do. Like, we get to decide what our lives look like. It might not be today, but every day we can make little incremental shifts towards what we want our future to look like. It's funny because I was saying like tomorrow's my birthday, and I was like, what do I want to do for my birthday? I get to live the life I want already. Like, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to make my favorite coffee, and I'm going to lay and cuddle with my dog. And then I'm probably going to go get boba in the afternoon, and I'm going to have a couple meetings, and I'm going to probably ride my Peloton because that's what I love to do. And like that's going to be my day. And that's like what I love to do. Like, I don't have any huge, like, pressing things I have to run and do. I'm going to spend time with my family, and like, that's the dream. And I live in California. And for those of you that don't, like, I grew up in Iowa where it was freezing. And when I was 17, I came to San Diego for the first time, and I walked off the plane and I said, I'm going to live here someday. And I don't live in San Diego. I live in Orange County, but close enough. And I go to San Diego all the time, right? And I look out my window right now and I see palm trees that I saw when I walked off the plane in San Diego.
Wow.
So a lot of people, you know, even in my close circle in my family, probably are like, probably thought at the time, she's crazy. She's not going to live in California, when I said that at 17, but here I am, right? So it's just about those mindset shifts that you take, and you meditate, and you get cups that say manifest that shit. And you do it, right? Like, little by little. And not every day is easy to do that and keep that mindset, but you just keep chipping away at it. And you get coaches like Elysia that help you keep chipping away at it.
You hire people like Kayla to help you from making terrible mistakes. So,
well, and then I would also just add, you'd asked a little bit about like getting into it. So I have recently started, you know, as I keep expanding, but not having shiny object syndrome, into like a mentor program. So I have a lot of HR people that do have interest in this, but they don't know where to start. Like, right, they kind of feel like their only path is to go do HR for a company. So I have a former colleague who is getting her master's in HR. And so I've offered, because I'm generous, as you know, it's one of my, who I am. I'm doing 30 minutes a week of free mentoring with her to just basically, I go over 3 scenarios that we come up across a week and just say, what would you do? Like, how would you handle this if you were a consultant for us? To start to get her thinking about like how it would be to be a consultant, because being a consultant is very different than being an in-house HR. So if there's ever anybody that you come across, Elysia, that like wants to get a taste of what it's like to consult and wants to understand or just talk with me about starting a consulting business versus going in-house, I'm all ears. Happy to chat.
That's so beautiful. What is so amazing about that, Kayla, is yes, you are generosity, but you're encouraging people to quote unquote be your competitors. And right, why not? There's enough companies that need to hire HR people. Like, you can't serve everybody, right?
Yes, everybody needs it. And I have a very specific ideal client. I wouldn't even take every business, because not every business is the right fit for me, but it might be the right fit for somebody else. So
yeah. I love that about you so much. Yeah. And your clients ask me, like, you coach a lot of business coaches and you're a business coach. Like, isn't that a conflict of interest? I'm like, no, people need business coaches. Like, please. Like, we're creating better people with what we can do. Kayla, my love, you do have such a dream life and you continue to create it. So if for your birthday, you scratch and win, or you get a lottery ticket and now you have hundreds of millions of dollars, 2 questions. What's the first thing you do when you find out you won the jackpot?
Okay.
And 2, what do you do with your time? Woo, balloons. I don't know why that's happening. What do you do with your time now that you don't have to think about money?
Okay. My ex, so my son's dad, I would move his sister to California. That'd be the first thing I would do with my money.
Wow.
Don't know why that came to my mind, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
What was the second one? What do I do with my time?
Yeah, what are you going to do with your time now that you don't, that money, you can spend your money however you want?
Probably the same thing I'm doing now.
Okay. And what?
I would probably spend more time. So I'm just starting to get into a lot of connections with nonprofits. Mm-hmm. And I know we've talked about like me starting my own. So I haven't updated you on this, but I went to a community event last week and I talked to so many founders of these great organizations locally. And I don't know now if I want to start my own or if I just want to be on like 5 different boards. Yeah. Because all of these organizations are so great and some of them are really similar to mine that we've talked about me starting. Mm-hmm. And so I might just like be on like 5 different boards.
Great. They could use you.
Spend all my time doing that.
Oh my gosh. I hope one day I will grow and have you on my board. Like what an honor that would be. Kayla is one of very few people that I got a tattoo with. It's not matching tattoos, but you have long sleeves right now. But Kayla,
pull it up.
We have tattoos together.
You did. You can't really see. You can see the bottom of mine.
So mine says "Remember your soul," and it's a reminder for me to remember my soul and my intention. Would you mind talking a little bit about your tattoo and what it means?
Yeah. So mine, you can kind of see it, but it's basically the recovery symbol for an eating disorder, and then in the middle of it, it has my son's name. He wrote it, so it's in his handwriting. His name is
the cutest damn thing. So what does it remind you of every day when you see it?
It reminds me to, first of all, love myself and to stay in recovery all the time for him. He's really who saved me. My recovery started when I was pregnant with him. And so that's why I put him at the center of it. And that's why.
So special.
And it was like the best day ever. So if you ever get to have a VIP day with Elysia, do it because it's well worth it. I'm like going to book another one soon.
Please do. My client Jennifer had hers after yours, and she texts me and goes, "We're not getting tattoos, right?" And my tattoo rule, because I have tattoos with a handful of other people, is if it's a matching tattoo, it can be anywhere on our body. But if it's not a matching tattoo, then we should get it in the same spot on our body. So that's what Kayla and I did. And so special. You're in my life forever and ever, honey. Thank you for sharing your light and your brilliance today, and so many great things for people to think about, business owners, entrepreneurs, and for being a beautiful leader in this world. If you're interested in working with Kayla, let her know that you came from seeing her or hearing her on the Brilliance Method podcast, and she's going to give you 10% off your first 3 months with Humanity HR. That is a huge, huge savings. Again, she's such a generous soul. Thank you, honey. Yay. Details will be below.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Magic Mama. Happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you.